Okay. I'm back here. Jeez. Okay. How is that now? Is that better for everyone? Is there less of a lag when I move around? Just gonna open this up on my own, on my other screen here. Okay. Some people are telling me this is better if I move around a little bit, if I zoom in. Oh, jeez. Okay. Um, Give me a second here to get reorganized. What a disaster this morning. Yeah, so I had to lower the resolution. I got rid of my face cam there. And my internet is just worst timing ever. It's pretty slow right now. Like, so, um, sorry about the picture quality. It's down to 30 frames per second. Before it was 60. Um, but I'm gonna give this another try. Hopefully, stick around. And yeah, some people are tuning back in. So I'm gonna just kick off where I was before. So, like I said, I'm gonna explore options for redesigning this making this hero section, give it a little more impact. And like I was saying earlier, my sort of lazy man way to give this impact is to just put an image on there. And before I was kind of browsing unsplash.com and just for pictures of Sydney, the city harbor. And I came across, this is the one I used last year, and I came across this one as well. I'm going to give both a try. I'm going to try working with both of them and see where that goes. Let me just rearrange my screen here below. So yeah, back to Figma. Let me know if there's still lagging issues. I can kind of see what's going on my screen below here. Anyways, I'm going to resize this to be the size of my hero section here, and I'm just going to mask it so it sits behind, so it sits in that hero. And I'm going to move it below. How do I send back in Figma here? Where's the arrange? Arrange. Send back. Send to back. Option, command. There we go. Okay, so obviously that looks stupid right now because the text is overlaid. The dark text is overlaid on this pretty dark image. So we're going to do a few things to adjust that. The first thing we're going to do is invert the text color. I'm going to make it white. And of course, that didn't help that much either. So we need to, just because this image has so much going on, it's pretty dynamic right now. So what I'm going to do to bring that text out more is apply some image. First thing I like to do is kind of bring down the contrast. So you can do that in Figma on the sidebar here by opening that panel and just bring down, just to kind of level everything out a bit. So you can play with a few of these things. Saturation. Another thing I like to do, like this photo is pretty busy. There's not going to be much we can do with the contrast. So another thing I like to do and I talked about this in my Laracon talk recently, is just to lower the saturation and then put a fill. Well, I can no, I can do this in Figma actually. I can put a fill layer on top of this image. And I don't want it to be a gradient. I just want it to be a solid fill. And I'm just going to overlay just a nice bold color. I haven't decided what color I'm going to use for this yet, but I'm just going to use something like this blue for now. And then from there, I'm going to change the blending mode to multiply. And what that does is it sort of brings that background image through and allows you to see all the details of it, but the contrast of that fill there makes it so that text is much readable. Now it's still a little bit hard to read, so I might do a combination of things. I might choose a darker color. I might even reduce the opacity of this. So you can kind of get the essence of Australia. You know, I'm starting to realize this isn't that great of a photo. Like, I mean, you get the Sydney Harbour Bridge, but it's really the Opera House that really captures the essence of Sydney. So I'm gonna try and get a better photo for that, and then choose a different color. So I'll browse around for colors in a bit. So I'm gonna go back to what other images did I grab here? It would be nice if I can find one where I don't know what I'm going to do with this text, if I'm going to center it or keep it left aligned like this. But if I keep it left aligned like this, it would be nice to get the Opera House so it's on the right side. So I could roll with this one. I'm going to download that. And that seems like the best one. That's a pretty good one. Again, it's on the other side. Maybe I'll end up just centering the text. That just might be my best. Oh, here's a great one. Okay, so I'm going to go back into Figma now. And this image, I'm going to replace this image with this one, is it? And that's obviously quite large right now. I'm going to zoom out here. Okay, that's interesting. Kind of has that negative space to the text, which is nice. I'm going to apply that same kind of desaturated treatment with a fill layer on top. Oh, this is on a gradient. And I'm going to multiply that again. Now, you can do this in code. You can do these like blending modes in code, but I always recommend doing it in software like this, in Figma or in Sketch, doing this treatment, and then exporting the image and then bringing it in, because I know the browser support isn't that great for those blending options. So this is always a better way to do it. So that looks kind of cool. Like again, this negative space I have here really helps that text stand out nicely. One thing I worry about with this image is the almost having too much focus on the Opera House, because I mean, like, this is kind of just promoting a conference in Sydney, Australia. This kind of just looks like a site for the Opera House. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm just going to leave this for now, and we can explore another image later. But then now I'm going to explore a few color options. So I was digging around for some inspiration. I went on Dribble earlier, and I kind of I came across this shot. this is how I work. I tend to browse on Dribble for a while, and then I find a bunch of shots I like, and then maybe I like the color, maybe I'll just like the layout or something, and then I'll just drag and drop the shots onto my working space so I can kind of reference them later, because I don't really use like the bookmarking tools on Dribble. So I thought this purple and teal was kind of nice, especially the teal. Like I used kind of a green for the Laracon site last year. This is kind of more of like a forest green, I guess. So I thought something a bit cooler would be. Now that I've visited Australia, I don't know. I feel like I can capture the essence of the city a bit better. But so I'm gonna see what I'm gonna try working with this kind of teal cyan. That's pretty close to what we had last year. Anyways, so that looks interesting. Another thing I could do is I could apply a gradient to this. I like doing like kind of like these diagonal gradients, so it goes from the top corner to the bottom corner. And right now it's like a teal, this teal to nothing. So my general safe call when choosing gradients is what I'll do. What I want to do is sample this whatever teal I used here, something like that. But if I want to get like a nice gradient, my general safe call is just rotating the hue like no more than 30 degrees. So I work with HSL. I have the HSL property open here, and when I rotate that down, like that green is a little but vibrant. Might go more towards the blue. I just kind of choose the side that looks better. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe a little excessive. And I'm gonna actually create a few different layers here so I can turn them on and off. How do I... There we go. I can just sample that. So here it is with just the teal. There it is with the gradient. So that's a subtle change, but that's nice. Kind of a nice glow to it. Someone is asking what fonts I like using. The font right now is just like, I think it's just San Francisco. Yeah, so it's just like the system font. I just plopped it in there as a placeholder. It varies. I'm going to start exploring font options right now. Usually what I do, I mean, I have a habit of sort of every time I'll go on a site like Landbook is a site I like to go to a lot, and just like a web gallery for browsing some of the nicest sites on the web. Landbook kind of has a focus on marketing land pages, and what I'll do is let me try and find a nice site that is worth digging up. So this looks pretty. This looks like a nice font. My internet is so slow right now. So usually when I'm browsing on the web for like inspiration and I come across a site like this, I might, if I like this font, I'm gonna check the dev tools, see what font's being used. And this font is, I think it's Graphic. Yeah, it's Graphic. This is actually the font we used in the Refactoring UI book that we just launched. I have this font, so this is a nice font, but that's how I kind of learn about new fonts. That's how I explore new fonts. Another site I like to go to is, I'll open a new tab here, fontsinuse.com. And this is sort of exactly what it's called. It's fonts in, it's just a gallery of fonts in use, and I've just said every now and then some of these fonts are they're pretty avant-garde, I guess. They're pretty interesting, but I check it every now and then. I learn about a few new fonts, but I mean, over the years of checking this site out and kind of checking the dev tools to see what fonts they're using on certain sites, I've kind of collected of fonts that are sort of my go-to for things like this. One font I like using a lot of people know me for using a lot, is Proxima Nova. I don't think I'm going to use it for this site, but I will swap it right now. And I don't know if we're going to go for like a bold treatment here, an extra bold treatment. I mean, I think that's a little too heavy. What's another font I like going to? I probably have like 5 or 10 different fonts I like going to. I think the font I used last year was Trade Gothic. I made it all caps. You know what? There's a better way of doing that, and I'm gonna not center that. And then you can just make it all caps like that. Okay. So I don't know if I'm gonna go with this font either. I'm gonna kind of group these together. I mean, a lot of times I'm really just browsing my list of fonts here until I find something I like. I also use like, not Typekit, what's it called now? They recently, because they got bought by Adobe, it's just Adobe fonts now. Now you can only access this if you have a subscription to Adobe now. They used to be able, you can just, anyone can pay like $10 a month and use Typekit or Adobe fonts. But now it's just part of the Creative Suite. So I pay for that as well. I pay for all these damn services, and but I still get use out of them every now and then. Someone will send me like a Photoshop file, and I'll have to open it up in Photoshop. So I have to make use of it. But so if I go to Adobe Fonts and browse fonts, they have all these filters on the left here, and I usually just go to like a sans serif font. Right now I'm looking for a headline. I guess I want just a regular, maybe a more condensed font might be nice. Oh, you're not derailing me at all. I was totally going down this path regardless. So, News Gothic is a nice font. And then Google Fonts has a similar panel to this, so you can kind of filter by like popularity and like kind of the trending fonts. So, yeah. So, what font do I want to use for this? You know, font is pretty nice for headlines is Din. Din's a great font for headlines. I don't like it for body copy as much, but if I'm going for like a lighter weight. Oops, I already did this. That's okay. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm going to increase the size. Though, like, fonts are not necessarily transferable, so you might need to adjust the size and weight of it depending on what font you're going from and to. So there I had to increase this. Din's a pretty small font compared to San Francisco, so I had to increase the size of this kind of subheadline. This subheadline is just sort of placeholder text. I think I stole it from one of the original Laracon US sites that I did years and years ago. So we might get rid of this completely. It might stay there. We'll see where this goes. So, and then, so like I said, I kind of like this green and purple, but I don't know. They may clash together if I make the button. Maybe I can make that button purple. And it will work nicely. So this green and this purple, like purple in general is a pretty dark color. So you need to make up for it by making it a bit lighter if you're going to put it on the dark green background like this. I mean, I think that looks stupid already anyway, so I'm probably not even going to work with this purple. Um, Even like, I mean, what I did, like, if you want to create, if you want to choose two different colors, you want the high contrast. What I usually just choose like a color just with a higher perceived brightness. So yellow is always a safe call for that. Um, but then with that, I need to. I'm just kind of playing around in the picker here. This is how I work with color. And even when I pick colors, by the way, it's like right now I'm just kind of messing around. But if I find a color like this, I might even go ahead and use the Tailwind defaults as my color. So I'll just use the Tailwind default alternative for whatever this teal is and whatever this purple is. So, I'll do that for this button. So I have the new Tailwind defaults kind of built into Figma here, and these are going to be coming out like later this. I think in like 2 weeks, Adam's going to launch this. Even this orange, and then now with that, I have really poor contrast with this this text, so I'm gonna have to invert this text color to be darker, so you can read it on this yellow background. And with that, I'm not just gonna make it black. Like what I do is just choose. So if I'm working with the Tailwind colors here, I'm using like a lighter variant for the button background. And then what I'll do from there is use one of the darker variants for the text color. So I have that color text on the colored background. So I'm using kind of this orange, but when it's like really light like this, it looks kind of yellow. And then when it gets to a darker color, it kind of has this red hue to it. That looks nice. And, this is me more or less. Now it's starting to look like last year's site with the colors I'm using. But I'm just exploring ideas here. Like I said, quantity over quality at this point, and then I might mess around with the colors later on. But I was hoping just to share a few ideas here today. Another thing I'm going to do is just these button corners, this input corner. It looks pretty sharp, so I'm going to round that a little bit. This looks a little bit fuzzy for me, so I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to round the corners on this, so I do that in increments of 8. So that's a little bit more fun. And this is just like a placeholder thing for now. Eventually this will be like when tickets are available, you'll be able to buy. This will be replaced with just a button or something like that. Maybe more information. I do have kind of a hierarchy already with this headline. But I'm going to tone down this text a bit. Maybe what I'll do here is I'll replace this background fill. I'll just use like the Tailwind default for that. So I guess this would be the closest thing to it. How do I adjust the... Like I said, I'm still struggling with getting familiar with Figma, but how do I change the blending mode when I have a style, like a shared style applied to this? Because before... So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to just kind of sample my color over here. It's a bit darker. Then I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to just sample it, and then I have it for reference later, and then I'm going to apply the blending mode. Oh God, what's that? That awful green. It's not possible to edit a blending mode with a style. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Maybe I'll get a bit lighter. Still experimenting with these tailwind default colors to see if they're if they're the right fit. This is kind of what we're landing on right now, but like I mean, this it's like opportunities like this that allow me to play around with them and see if they work great. And I'm gonna. Jeez. I want to apply the fill layer to this image, not to. And then multiply. And I'm going to reduce the opacity of this a bit more. I'm starting to regret this font choice. It's just a little, I think I want something a bit fatter. Because it's just hard to read on that background. Maybe we'll just go with system default for now. Love it or hate it. I mean, I kind of like it. I really like it for like the bold. I really like the bold version of San Francisco. What's going on here? SF text. And this is the text. I want to use the display for this. So in the browser, it captures the display font by default. But when I have the downloaded version, I have to like adjust it manually. And then I'm going to change this text color in the same way I did with the button on this yellow background. I'm going to just use like the lighter version of this particular hue. So if I open up the color palettes, I go to my teal. That's probably not accessible whatsoever. That's almost too light. And then, you know what? I'm going to go to the darker version of this. I need to... It's almost a tad too dark. That's bold. Okay. Okay, there's one idea. Again, quantity over quality. Let's try a few things here. I mean, I'm not going to do this, but like I said, I might replace this with an illustration later on that I draw. I mean, not everyone can draw, so a great resource to check out that I always remind people of is this site called Undraw. It's by an illustrator. Her name is Katarina. There's her name. Katarina. I can't pronounce that last name. Sorry, Katarina. Limpet. Katarina. But it's a great resource. So it's like, it's in the same way as Unsplash. It's kind of like royalty-free illustrations that you can use for your marketing site. And she's a really talented illustrator. I doubt there's anything like Australia specific in this collection. How do I search here? Here we go. Let's just see what we got here. No results. So yeah, but she does have like some very specific stuff too. Like here's a very like specific Laravel view illustration. That's pretty cool. But they're also quite generic in a way that you can use them for pretty much any kind of marketing hero site. Like if you go back to this land book, they all kind of have that style, right? They all have that. What's a good example? Like even like this right here has that illustration on the right here. So you kind of do that headline illustration combo for the hero. What else? Even this site kind of has that illustration. It's a different style, but it still has that kind of headline illustration combo. So it's always worth checking out this site. Undraw.co. I said it was .com before. But I can stick with a photograph for this for now. And I might mess with the colors later. This is I might mess with the font later, and I might mess with the photograph later. So maybe let's try another option here. So I try to make a habit of, instead of like, if I have another idea, doing on top of this is just like duplicating it and bring it over to a new artboard and experimenting it from there. So I'm gonna browse around on. I mean, another way I can handle this image and creating a nice contrast with the text is kind of just making it like half the page. Like I did that on hero patterns. So this is a site I made. It's all like free patterns you can use for your backgrounds. And I kind of did this split view thing. And that's kind of a nice way to like put a nice image on the right here, and then put your text on a white background to give that contrast that you need. So that might work better for this. So I'm gonna try that. So in order to do that, I need to get rid of that layer. I'm gonna invert this text color to be just like a cool gray for now. I'll mess with that in a bit. Same with this logo, actually. And what I'm going to do... Actually, I love this idea. This is going to allow me to... Oh, let me put this into... This isn't in an artboard. So I'm going to put this into a frame. So it's on a white background. Jeez. Again, just getting the hang of Figma here. And you know what? This allows me to put emphasis on that opera house a bit more. Just capture the city a bit better than what I had before. What I'm going to do is... Let's actually apply that fill again. I can even... Now, when I code this up later on, I might do this like split thing where it's like taking up one half of the page and the banner is taking the text is taking up the other half of the page. Right now I just have this on like a 1440 width. So I'll figure that out later. That's Future Steve's problem. And I mean, just a nice other cool effect is I could just kind of rotate this so it kind of goes along with the text right now. Now I'm going to move this over. So that's an interesting idea. Makes it look a bit more edgy. And I want a little more contrast between this headline and this kind of subtitle description, more than what I'm just getting with the size. I'm gonna make this the subheadline a nice, just a lighter gray, maybe kind of like the third one down. That might be a tad too much. Let's play around here. No, I liked what I had. Maybe even just this. Actually, I'll keep the dates and stuff the same. And I can't see this input anymore because it's on a white background. So I'm going to make this input a very soft gray just to help it. And I'm going to add just a subtle 2-pixel stroke to it. With just even a slighter gray. So I'm always using these cool grays right here that are out of the Tailwind palette. There's a fine line between like when you use these grays is like giving enough contrast so it's like it stands out a bit more against the white background, but then also giving it enough so it doesn't look not too much where it looks disabled, right? And I think that's where this subtle border helps. I might make that a bit darker. Oh, there, that's what I want. Something like that, I guess. Or, you know what I can do is... Oops, I got rid of the fill there. I'm going to go with the lightest gray. What if it's the second lightest gray? What does that look like? No, it's too dark. Oh, I had the wrong gray selected there. That's all right, actually. Maybe a tad too dark, actually. One thing I hate about, well, it's annoying me with Figma is I have to, every time I open the palette, I have to scroll back down to where I was before. I'd rather just open it and it be open where I was. Hard to say. Like that's what I'm experiencing right now with this particular situation. I was experiencing that earlier when I was picking these palettes. Every time I created a new swatch, but it seems a bit tedious. Yeah, you're gonna be able to rewatch this later. And I'm gonna stick with this softer gray. And how big is this? Maybe make the logo bigger and put it on the right. So like this. Like this. I maybe agree that it could be a bit bigger. I mean, this is just the Laravel logo. There's actually no logo for Laracon AU. I almost don't want to put too much emphasis on it. Like I mean, this title is more or less the logo. This is just there so you have the brand representation. What do I think of Figma over Sketch? So far, I'm liking it. I think performance-wise, I like Figma much better. And there's a lot more cool features in Figma. There's a lot of like little things about Figma that are I figure they're kind of working on. The one thing I was like, basically when I'm picking colors and I want to change the color of this headline, let's say, I'll open this and then I'll choose a color. So I'll just go to the color I'm using, but then it'll close. It's like, and I guess you can drag this around, but every time I open like every time I click on a new text target, it closes. So I have to like reopen it. And sometimes I just want to like leave it open right there. The other little thing is just like, yeah, like little things that like I have to scroll to get to the next color. Another thing is that like when I'm picking a color or something, like let's say I select this input right here, and change the stroke of it, let's say, and pick the color. Sketch is smart in the way that it like Figma kind of keeps this frame this selection frame around it when I'm picking a color, where like Figma does that, and then Sketch does it, like gets rid of that when it knows I'm picking a color. So it kind of gets rid of that distraction. So just little things like that in Figma that are kind of bugging me. But for the most part, like I like it very much. And it's actually free for like single users. You have to start paying when you introduce a team. But for someone like me, I can just use this for free. It's in the browser. So, and I know Sketch has got a ton of funding, and they're going to be, I think they kind of talked about in their newsletter how they want to create an in-browser experience like this. So I don't know what that means entirely, but yeah. Okay, so here's another cool idea. I'm going to sit on this for a bit. I'm going to change the color of this logo. Maybe I can make this logo the same as our teal here. That looks stupid. Maybe just the soft gray. Like I said, I don't want to put too much emphasis on it because, again, it's not the official, like, there's no Laracon AU logo. So I'm going to leave this like that for now. I want to move on to another section. I've been talking about this hero for probably about half hour now. So let's explore a few options for the speaker section. So I kind of have a rough layout here. This is by no means where I plan to take it layout wise. I'm just going to create another artboard below this. And I'm going to just create a little bit of a layout here. A grid. I'm going to use columns. I like just working in columns of 12. And I'm going to just constrain it a bit. And I'm just using like 12 columns with a width of 80 and a gutter of 20. This is by no means how it's going to be like when it gets coded up. I just kind of use it as a general guide when I'm designing in Figma. Figma needs a shortcut to toggle selection outlines. Yeah, I mean, maybe there is. Maybe I just don't know it yet, to be honest. Like I said, I'm just still getting familiar with this tool. And I'm going to copy and paste this over here. I guess this has on the different grid than what's the layout here? 12 columns, 80 pixels. Maybe I made it. Whatever, I'm going to line this to the grid a bit better. And these are just the speakers from last year's. These, including myself, but I don't think any of us are going to be there again this year. Maybe Matt, but I don't know. I know Adam and Taylor aren't going there this year. Maybe they'll change their mind. I don't want to speak for them. By the way, it's Adam's birthday today, so if you follow him on Twitter, wish him a happy birthday. So for this section, so this is one layout idea. Let's explore like layout ideas before we get too carried away with like the style and stuff of this section. Another layout idea I could do. I need to keep in mind that eventually there's going to be like 12 speakers listed here, or however many Michael decides to go with, and I could one thing that's nice about this current layout is that it's nice and constrained. It's just not taking up a lot of vertical space. But maybe we can try something different, just in the way this is just maybe that they're not in circles or something, right? So the way I make circles in Figma, because I don't want them like, when I have a circle, it's just a circle. I can't edit. Like what I'll do is I'll make a square and turn the corner radius up to like 100, so it looks like a circle. But then I can, if I want to edit it later, I can just make it. Why isn't that working? Oh, because it was just still. So if I want to make it more of like a rounded square, I can just adjust these parameters here. And I can make this a bit bigger, maybe make it more of a rectangle even. Let's make this photo of Taylor a bit bigger. And that will give me a little more, like, let's say I wanted to add a bio or something here. That gives me a little bit more room there to work with. I was looking at a few other conference sites just to get some inspiration earlier. Like, here's a few nice ones. This is the Facebook conference they have. This is the Framer one. Framer's another tool, kind of like Sketch and Figma. It's another competitor in that market. There's so many tools like this coming out nowadays. And where did I see a nice one? Epic Currents is a nice they always have the nicest sites. This is a conference run by a guy named Dan Petty. He's kind of a big influencer in the design community. He's got the nicest sites. I'm not sure if he does these, maybe like, or he hires a guy and he kind of just plays a creative director role. But every time a new Epic Current site comes out, it's always like the sexiest thing on the internet. But yeah, he kind of did these larger images, sort of this stack treatment for the speakers. So I could explore something like that. I mean, but again, like Laracon might have like 12 speakers where it looks like there's only like six here right now, so it's not taking up that much vertical space. What other conference sites was I looking at? Maybe it was on Dribble. I was looking at them. There's a good one I saw. Sorry, I'm moving around so much right now. There's probably quite a bit of a lag for you guys still. Where was that? Huh. I don't remember. But this gives me a little bit more room to add like a bio or something. What else can we do here? So it's a bit tedious to like just do that for the same thing. So I'm just going to duplicate Taylor's head like 6 times. I mean, so we had to toggle on and off the grid. Let's see here. What was the control for that? Shift option question mark? Or shift control question mark? There it is. And view. Grid is control G. Okay. Get rid of that panel. Okay. I could even add, like, right now I just have Taylor's Twitter handle and it would link to that. I could replace, I kind of put these aside for later. I could put some social media icons in there. I mean, I don't even know what Taylor's probably only on Facebook. I think he's got like an Instagram account if he wanted to put that there. So that's another option. Where's my cursor? There it is. What else can I do? I kind of just like this treatment I have already. Let's try another one where I do more of a stack treatment. So I'm going to open this up a bit. I have a bad habit of not talking directly into my mic. I always talk a little bit because I have this mic on the stand right now, and it's a little bit away from where I'm positioned looking at my monitor. I could set it as a component. Yeah, I could do that. Again, still getting familiar with Figma. It would be way more efficient, but I'm still kind of getting familiar, like learning how to make components in Figma. I mean, I even had a bad habit of doing that when I worked in Sketch, of not making components, because I usually just work on like simple, like components and stuff. They make a lot of sense for like big sites that you're reusing a lot of the styles, but like a lot of projects I work on are just like simple marketing pages like this, right? And I might duplicate this, and I don't even know how powerful the components are in Figma. Like if I put all these in an image, am I able to round the corners on all of them? I don't know. Perhaps. I just have to get familiar with that. Any tips concerning HSL and Figma? I mean, Figma is pretty, it seems like the best tool for HSL because they actually have like an HSL picker built right in. A lot of tools, even like the browser, like Chrome dev tools, they support HSL, but they show it on an HSB picker. So in HSB picker, the difference is that like HSB is hue, saturation, and brightness. So I guess when I toggle between this HSL, you'll see the difference. HSB, like you'll get white in the top corner here, and you'll get the most saturated version of that color. at 100% uh, at 100% brightness. Where HSL, you're going to get the most saturated color by at 50% lightness. So you can see the white takes up the entire bar at the top. So Figma seems like the best tool for that. So it actually has an HSL picker. I don't think I've seen this anywhere else. And yeah, you can just, I usually just drag my cursor around until I find a color I like. But you can just toggle the parameters on below here if that's what you like to do. So I'm going to maybe try this more of the stack treatment. I'm going to move all this down. Now, if I were to follow my grid layout here, making these, that would take up a lot of space. Those are pretty big, so I'm going to reduce the size to like maybe like, I don't know, like even like half the size of the grid space I have there, and just using quite a bit of padding around it. And then I can align this, center align that. Let's give this his name a bit better, like a bit bolder. Make it a bit bolder here. Oops, I want to center this content, this text. And again, align it centered. And another thing I like to do is like, a lot of marketing sites do this. Like when I'm working on a marketing page, I like to like rotate the backgrounds as you scroll. So if you go to like these land book examples, you'll probably see it everywhere. I'll just try to find a good example here. Just want like a nice simple one. I mean, even this one is good. So what they do is they have this big blue header. As you scroll down into different feature sections, they kind of have this off-white background, and then they have this overlapping video, and then it goes to a white background, and then as you scroll, you get another big blue background aligning another feature. So they just kind of rotate the background. Sometimes you can put a full photo like this. So I like to do that on a lot of marketing sites, and that just kind of keeps it more interesting. So what I might do is I have this hero section. I'll have that kind of green and white split. You know what I might do is make the background of this, instead of making it white, I'm going to make it an off-white. Maybe. I don't know. I might regret this. And then I'm going to go back to making this a white. I guess I don't have like a white style here. That creates that contrast that I wanted. I might do something like that, maybe. And then I'll make the speaker section. I might make it... I'll try two things here. I seem to be spending a lot of time on this layout that I don't know what I want to do with yet. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to work with this one I'm currently using. And I'm going to get rid of... What was the shortcut for that again? It was Control G. I might decide to make this like a dark background. I'm working with these cool grays, something like, yeah, that seems a little bit, something like that. Again, invert the text. Heck, this could be where I introduce that. That'll be nice. That's what's nice about this process I have going on here. So I can just stack these now. Now I'm sure there's a way to get rid of these little labels here but for now it's fine. I get a general idea of how it looks. So I'm not really a big fan of that color. This is where maybe I could try working with that purple I had in that one shot earlier. And now that I'm not worrying about this background contrast with the text, I can even make this a bit lighter. It's quite vibrant. And let's see what this purple looks like. Let's see what the Pitoan purples look like. Yeah. I do like the purple though. I just don't like with the green. That is a nice purple. Makes me want to change this green to be like a purple now. Let's do it. And maybe I'll make this. I think that looks better already. What do you guys think? Let's give this the same. So I have two versions of San Francisco. There's San Francisco text and I have SF text. I'm going to use the display version of that. I'm going to make that bolder. For font sizes, I usually just work with the Tailwind default scale. So it more or less has increments of 12 when you once you get to larger sizes. So it goes at the smallest size it works in increments of 2. So it's it's 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and then 24, 30, 36, 48. So I usually just work with that scale. Heavy. Okay. It's okay. Now, I don't know what speakers Michael has for Laracon this year. Like I said, this is just last year's. So he's probably going to want a button or something too, if you want to submit a talk. So I'm thinking I might put that over on the right here, but I don't want it just floating there. So what I'm going to do is just add a bottom border to this. I know there's a border shape you can use, but I always just make it with the rectangle tool and make it like a 2-pixel rectangle. I don't know why. It's just I think I've always just done that. And I'm gonna use just a softer gray from the background. So I think this background has is the second darkest gray. So I'll use the one below that, and just a very subtle background. And then I'm gonna add it might just be a text link. I'll make it and there might be a button that says submit a talk. I don't know how Michael wants to do this. A talk. This might link to another page or it would go to an email or something like that. We'll figure that out later. And because it's a link, I want to give a link color. But because we're on a dark, I'm not the link color. I might use this purple, but I'm not gonna use the same purple because we're on a dark background. I need to use a lighter variant of that purple so it has a nice contrast to it. Yeah, a few people are asking if it's gonna be available for replay. Yeah, it will be. I'll post it right after I'm done here. I think it automatically posts. That looks stupid. I always have an idea in my head and then I try it and it's just a horrible idea. So, instead of making it a text color, what I'm going to do is I'll make it white. And I'm going to make it a bit smaller. and I'll just contain it in like a soft button. Now, I just wanted to give like a secondary treatment. A lot of folks for like secondary treatments, what they'll do is they'll give it like an outline, and that's fine. Like it looks clean, it's subtle. So maybe something like that, maybe a bit more. And that's fine. That looks interesting. Like it does look like a button now. Maybe I'll round the corners a bit. Oops. I'm gonna do. There we go. But another treatment that I like to do that all kind of also has that subtle like secondary button treatment is just giving it a softer background color. So I'm gonna go with something a bit softer. That's almost too bright. A bit softer than the current background. Just so enough so that text is still. Maybe I'll bolden out a bit. So like a semi-bold. I like the bold. Let's roll with it. Yeah. So I'm pretty messy in Figma and Sketch. Like it, and when I might code this later on, or someone else might code it on. I either might, if I have to hand it off to someone else to code, I might clean it up. Usually, if I'm working with someone like Adam, like he knows I'm a messy worker, he'll just deal with it and work with the Tailwind utilities, and that makes it easy. And that I'd be the same way if I were to just code this up myself. I would just rely on the Tailwind utilities and get something close to what I'm doing here. But I just like to get the idea as quick as possible in Figma, and clean it up later in code. So that's a nice button treatment to submit a talk. Another thing is like these images, they kind of clash with each other because they all have like my photos, this black and white photo. So like the two of us have these black and white photos, and the rest of these guys have these colored photos. And then like there's even like the difference of like these are like portrait shots where Simon here is in the water, which is cool, but like there's just all these different treatments. So just to kind of balance things out a bit, I like to desaturate all of the images. So just a bit more cohesion between them. So how do I do that in Figma? I bet I have to do that like individually. Can I do that? No, I can't do that. Like select multiple. So again, same with the background photo I did is just reduce the saturation. And why am I using Figma nowadays? I explained it earlier, but yeah, I'm giving it a try. I like it so far. It has much better performance. It's much more efficient than Sketch, which is crazy because it's a browser. It's like built in the browser, where Sketch is like a native Mac app. But those guys at Figma are probably pretty smart. And so I'm just giving Figma a try right now, and I haven't. I'm still like, even if I fully adopt Figma, I'm still gonna like continue paying for Sketch. I think like I'm happy to give them my money. Like they make a great tool, and I'm excited to see what they continue to deliver. But kind of going back and forth between the two right now. Like you can even import your Sketch files into Figma quite easily. But I still find myself opening Sketch every now and then. I use both tools, but so like I said, that kind of desaturating the images, they kind of makes them look a little more cohesive. I can even do the same treatment I did with this background, make them purple. I think that'd be like maybe a bit too heavy. Another cool tool that's worth checking out. What's the name of it? It's escaping me right now. Shape Factory. Duotone by Shape Factory. So similar to like how I created that background color, like layered that fill on top of the background image, that desaturated background image to give it that kind of blue, that purple overlay. You can give it a similar treatment on this tool called Duotone, and here you can search unsplashed images directly in this tool. So that was the photo site I was sharing earlier, and you can just pick two colors, and what it does is it kind of uses the one color for the highlights and then one color for the lowlights. So they use this cyan for the highlights, and that you can kind of see that in the image here, like the background light and stuff. And then all the dark parts of the image have this purple thing going on. So I can do something like that. And you can do this in Adobe and Photoshop. It's called gradient, by using a gradient map. But this is just a great little website for that. And then so you can upload your own image too. But if I find like my Australia image, so here's the one I'm using, and if I want to give it that, I mean that already looks pretty cool. If I want to give it like that, maybe something more cyan. I mean, I'm just messing around here. I mean, this is always a cool tool. This is a cool treatment you can apply to your images to give you some more contrast. But I'm just gonna roll with what I have right now. Okay, how long have I been talking for? About an hour now. So I want to move on to another section. Let me give these a different link style. Maybe the purple would work on this, like something lighter. Yeah, that works. So let's see if I have a good tailwind alternate for that. Oh, yeah. What else we got here? Go lighter? Nah, that was good. Purple 300. Let me make sure that's accessible. How do I just get this hex code? I have to edit the master. Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. Draw in our shape. And make it that purple. And then, this is so tedious. So here's another thing, like just a way, like these come from like these colors that I have from the Tailwind defaults that I have, like they're these shared styles that I brought into Figma. But I just want to copy this hex code right now, and I can't figure out an easy way to do that. Like I don't plan on editing it. I just want to kind of, well, maybe I do want to edit it, but in order to do that, I have to break the style. Oh, well, I can do that, I guess. But anyways, I want to see if this is accessible. So I have this tool called Contrast. It's like a menu bar app. And what I do is I'll put in the hex code for the foreground color and then the background color, and it tells me if it's accessible. So yes, that's very accessible. So we're all good there. Okay, next section we're going to work on is this schedule section. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this. A little bit of a, it's slow for me right there. I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going back to like rotating the background or changing the background up, as I might do like a purple background now, like a full purple background, and put the schedule on that. Let me just make sure that this purple is accessible with white, because I'm going to be using white text on this probably. Yeah, sure is. So let's roll with it. Maybe the darker version is better. Let's just see. Oh, that's a little too dark. Yeah, I'll keep what I have there. I mean, that's how I kind of pick colors. Like I said, I go to the tailwind colors, and if one looks too dark, I try the one above, and it's just too dark, I'll go back to the lighter one. And obviously, you can always customize them if you just can't find quite the right color you're looking for. But gonna bring this over here. So layout wise, I have this. I have the days stacked. In previous years, like another way I can kind of rearrange this into is actually first I'm gonna just make all this text white. Another kind of layout I can explore that I've done for like other Laracon sites is let me just like I have each day has its own column for like part of the day. So like it's like the morning to lunch, and then on the right was like the lunch till the end of the day. Another way I can approach it is doing this, where I have a column for day one and a column for day two. Another approach I can take is I'm gonna duplicate this again. Is have let's group this. It's starting to get messy. Is we can have a single column for both, spread everything out a bit. We make this really tall, but I don't know. Let's explore it here. And we can use our day one of a title right here. Day two, it kind of has this like title on the left and the schedule on the right. And I can spread this out a bit more now. So there's another idea. I kind of like this. One thing I saw on the Epicurrent site, I really like the way he did the schedule here. It's like kind of this, make it look a bit more interesting. I might jack that just a bit. Oops, I accidentally made a rectangle there. And then I'm also going to probably separate these with borders. How much space is in between each of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. And I'm going to make that a bit smaller. And then I'm going to make this border color just a lighter variant of the background color. Maybe that's too bright. Something closer to that. Nope. I mean, that looks all right. And I'm just gonna to associate these a bit better. Oops. Cool. That associates the speaker and the time a bit better. Obviously, these aren't aligned right now, but that's, I mean, I'm just trying to get these ideas out. This also leaves it open for like, if Michael's gonna add talk descriptions to this, he can do so. And I'm just gonna copy and paste this. So yeah. That looks pretty clean. Like I said, I'm gonna explore that. Maybe doing something like, I don't want to rip it off too bad, but it was pretty. I'm just gonna try it. Whatever. Doesn't hurt to try. It's not the most crazy original idea in the world. I'm just gonna and make that like quite large, right? 96. And then I might just lower the opacity on this. I mean, there's me putting in like zero effort whatsoever to try and get that treatment. They did the O1 just to make it look a bit more bolder. Maybe make it bigger. Maybe this doesn't work at all. Maybe it's just a weird idea for me to try. But it does really fill up that left side much better. And I'm going to do the same over here. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing. It's almost like too much of a ripoff. I'm going to like get rid of this. I mean, just another idea. Like I said, it might not make the final cut, but I think it's a pretty cool treatment to explore. I don't know even how to do that in code personally, but again, future Steve's problem. And then I don't know. No, I'm not going to do that. I feel like almost like this border can extend the entire width. And make that like whatever my page width is, like 9. That's like 1020, 1040, something like that. And then what font did I use for, what font size did I use for this heading? 36, and it's heavy. Kind of like the 48. And I might do the same for over here as well. Might be a bit aggressive. Just trying ideas here. Trying ideas. Okay. So there's an idea for the schedule. Where'd it go? Why does that go away as soon as it connects with that? There we go. So again, none of this may not see the final product, but I just want to explore and share a few ideas that I might be taking and just kind of share my process here, my messy process. I'm going to make this font maybe a bit bolder. Maybe I'll have the actual date, like whatever date it was. If I go to Laracon, let's just say it's October 18th. Thursday, October 19. Okay. And so that really takes up a lot of the both the horizontal space, takes up a lot of vertical space, but not as much as you'd think. Now, one thing is that Michael doesn't have any of the speakers lined up, or maybe he has a few, but we might need to design a blank state for this. One option is just if he has like a bit of a schedule figured out, he could just put in to be announced a bunch of times. I was looking at Facebook's conference site, and the way they do their schedule is more of this chart, and I thought that would be kind of a cool way to treat like a blank state, because it's like he probably has a rough idea of what the day looks like, just not what the individual where the individual sessions fit. So if we just kind of did a registration section here and then filled this slot with it's just a nice visual way to show the day at a glance of what it looks like, and just kind of you could put that in as a placeholder before you have any speakers booked. So I might do something like that later on. What are sections do I have here? Let me zoom out. So I have the venue section and the sponsors section. Now, this is pretty tight in here. I'd probably space this out a bit more. But again, I would usually do this in code after the fact. I'm just trying to get just some good ideas out. I'm probably going to change the font later too. So going back to our pattern of just rotating the background or switching up the background color is I'm gonna what the hell? This time I could make it a white background, let's say, or even like an off-white background. And info about the venue. So the venue is called Monkey Bar. Let me grab the venue image. This is the one I used last year. I think this is just taken from. I think Michael sent me a bunch of. You know what I'd do now? I'm just going to do this for now for the sake of being efficient. But later on, I'll probably take images from last year's conference and put them in this section. That would look way better. I should have kind of thought of that ahead of time. Now, this is kind of boring looking. One way to kind of liven it up a bit is, so another thing you could do, I'm like using different color and switching it up as I scroll. Another thing I could do is put a background pattern on there, so I could use like one of those hero patterns. This topography is pretty popular, but even just something as simple as like this graph paper. Some silly ones on here that like this food one. It's just someone requested that and I made it. Some of them are silly. I wouldn't like personally use a lot of them, but some of them are pretty cool. like I like just using the simple ones, like the banknote here, and like the diagonal lines. Like some of these are okay, but I would apply one of those. I can maybe plop one of those on the background here. Another thing I saw on one of the dribble shots is this, like, when you're working with images, adding like just a bit of like, in this dribble shot they kind of added this little bit of texture. It's kind of like this fake textured drop shadow kind of thing going on. We sort of did this on the Refactoring UI book site. Kind of having these little SVG graphics just kind of throughout the page to just to make it a bit more interesting, add some visual interest. I did it with these images I made, just to kind of support the image a bit better. So I could do something like that here. Another thing I could do, it's gonna be a little bit tedious. I'm gonna try and wrap up in the next 15 minutes. I'm gonna go to Google Maps. And then go just look at Australia. I don't know how to type. And I'm going to take I'm going to take a screenshot of this. So if you just want like a nice way to create like a nice looking map without actually using a map, is what I'm going to do now is kind of what I just showed you. I'm going to make like a bunch of dots. Bear with me here. And I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. I'm going to spread these out a bit more, actually. Bear with me here. It's a little bit tedious. How tall is this now? Let's make it a bit more. Okay, there's a lot of dots. I'm going to duplicate that a bunch of times. And going to, sounds like my wife's home. I'm going to remove the dots, and I'm going to kind of trace the map here. It's a bit tedious, but the results are always pretty cool. Keep that dot right there. Quite tedious. All the dots that don't cover the map. And now I have sort of edgy looking I agree that might need more small dots for this. I mean, I just more or less wanted to show efficiently how to do this technique. Oops. My little girl sounds fussy right now. And there I have this cool little, again, yeah, like someone in the comments said it might look better if there was more dots. Fully agree. But this is a nice little like I could plop it anywhere here. Maybe even in the hero. Nah. I think like with the venue info makes the most sense. That's a lot of dots. And I'm gonna just make those like a light gray, a cool gray, maybe a bit darker than that. Ah, bugger. And then push it to the background. Maybe a light gray was the way to go. Lighter gray. I just want it subtle. So I might put more dots in there and include New Zealand as well. But there's a quick way you can just make a quick map like that, like edgy looking map. It's just kind of textured. It's not really, it doesn't even need to represent anything really. It's just kind of a nice little nice background texture to add. And I can be fun, and I'm just experimenting here. I don't know if I'm gonna keep this, but like just doing subtle little things like this to make it just bring a little more interest to the image itself. But once again, I'm gonna replace this image with like images from the conference last year. And let's change this to the display font. Let's make it heavy like we do everywhere else. And what size of font did I use there? 48. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I guess. I think I would give this a more interesting treatment. I'm going to move on to the next section for now. I want to wrap up pretty soon. It's almost 1 o'clock. Time to get some lunch. So, next section is the kind of the sponsor footer section. Footers, I always like making them dark, so I'm going to use the same kind of background color I used for the speaker section. So like that. And when I work with like logos like this that all have like a different size, like these are all nice looking logos I grabbed, but when they all have a different like size and they're all have different proportions, I always like to contain them the way I have them contained here, like in some kind of box. Like what site was I looking at? I think it was this one. This is just a conference. I just kind of found it on Dribble or something. And when you don't contain them, like you just plop them on the page, it just looks like pretty cluttered. By containing them, it kind of bounces things out, makes them look all like the same relative size, and it gives them quite a bit more room to breathe between each other. So I always like to contain them in something like this, whether it's this or each giving them their own, like each giving each thing its own subtle background. I mean, this is fine. I'm just gonna roll with this for now. Give it some rounded corners, maybe. Let's give it a subtle off-white background. And change the font. This is where I need to make like a shared style. I guess this is where it makes sense because I'm using this in multiple places. And let's give this just a subtle off-white text color, maybe a little bit more. That's pretty good. And then, I mean, maybe I'll connect the footer to this section. Like I was looking at the Epicurrent site, they do something kind of similar. They kind of contain all this stuff here, and then they have all their legal jargon at the bottom. So it kind of just acts as a footer. Maybe later I'll do something like that, but for now I think this is I'm just gonna leave it like that. And yeah, I mean, this is just a starting point. That's all I wanted to kind of get done today. I think there's still a lot of work that needs to spend. I mean, I could spend hours on this. So, I think this is pretty okay for an hour and a half of work. And yeah, if you have any thoughts, feedback, if you don't like it, share your comments. And can you explain the advantage of using different sections of the web page as separate artboards? That's just something I did this time. I normally actually have them on one artboard. But I kind of, for the sake of keeping things simple for this live stream, I design one section at a time and then just stack them on top. So basically, if I decide to go a different direction with the speakers, I can pull this out and plop this one in. This one looks stupid, obviously, but I can plop that one in. And same with goes for all the other sections. And I thought that was a interesting idea, but this is the first time I've ever done that. So a little new workflow discovery. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up now. Yeah, I think that's okay. It's a good starting point. A lot more work to get done. So I'm going to sign off. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And I hope to do this like once a week for the next few weeks, maybe bi-weekly. I'm speaking at Smashing Conference in like a month, and their whole shtick is that they don't allow you to. They want to kind of make it so the speakers can't use slides, and it's all like kind of live designing, and that makes me incredibly nervous. So I'm kind of using this as an opportunity to share my ideas with you guys, but also just kind of practice speaking out loud and articulating my thoughts in a interesting way. So I hope this has been useful, and feel free to leave some comments. Shoot me a note on Twitter. And I have a few things lined up for the next few weeks, but eventually, if you guys have your own designs that you want some design feedback on, I can take a look at them, and I'll start incorporating those into this live stream. Kind of like what I was doing earlier with the refactoring UI videos. They're all user submitted designs. So I'm not going to open that up right now. Like I said, I have a few lined up, but I'll tweet something out in the next few weeks about doing user submitted designs. Cool. So thanks again, guys. I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to figure out how to do that. Okay. Take care.